Hi, you're watching 13th Whisper. The line between truth and terror is thinner than you think. And today, we're going to cross it. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and share it with your friends. Some stories don't like being told. Let's begin. The Sanatorium's secret. Imagine a place forgotten by time, swallowed by the wilderness, where the air hums with secrets too dark to stay buried. Picture a forest so dense it feels alive, its shadows shifting just out of sight, whispering things you can't quite hear. This is the story of Pine Hollow Sanatorium, a decaying relic from the Cold War era, hidden deep in the forests of upstate New York. A place where the past doesn't rest and the present doesn't belong. Four friends, thrill seekers, dreamers, YouTubers, thought they'd stumbled onto the perfect location for their next viral video. They were wrong. What they found wasn't just an abandoned building. It was a trap, a snare woven from echoes and dust. And something inside had been waiting for them, patient, hungry, timeless. Let's dive in. It's late October, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, and the forest stretches out like a graveyard of skeletal trees, their gnarled branches clawing at a gray, overcast sky that seems to press down on the world below. The air smells of damp earth and rot, a sour tang that sticks in your throat. Four friends, Jake, Mia, Ethan, and Sarah, pile out of a beat-up SUV, its tires crunching on the gravel of an overgrown path. They're urban explorers, running a small YouTube channel called Lost Places Uncovered, chasing views and adrenaline in equal measure. Jake, the leader, the one with the loud laugh and the reckless streak, holds up his camera, his breath fogging in the chill as he grins. All right, subscribers. Welcome to Pine Hollow Sanatorium, built in the 1950s as a retreat for Soviet diplomats during the Cold War. This place has been rotting out here for decades, left to crumble under the weight of its own history. Rumors say it was shut down after some shady experiments went down. Experiments no one talks about, not even in whispers. Let's see what we can dig up. Mia adjusts her backpack, her dark hair falling into her eyes, her voice shaky but laced with excitement. I read online that people hear whispers in the woods around here. Some say it's the wind, but others, they swear it's voices, calling their names. Creepy, right? Ethan, the skeptic, tall and wiry with a smirk that never quite fades, rolls his eyes as he slings his own camera over his shoulder. Probably just the wind, or raccoons. You're too gullible, Mia. Sarah, quieter, her hands stuffed into the pockets of her hoodie, points her flashlight at the sanatorium's crumbling facade. Broken windows like hollow eyes staring back. Ivy strangling the concrete walls as if trying to pull the whole place into the earth. They push through a rusted gate, its hinges groaning like a dying animal, and step inside. The lobby is a time capsule frozen in decay. Faded propaganda posters in Russian hang crookedly on the walls, their edges curling like dead leaves, slogans about unity and strength barely legible under layers of grime. A receptionist's desk sits abandoned, covered in a thick shroud of dust, papers scattered across it like the last gasp of some long-forgotten bureaucracy. Above, a cracked chandelier dangles from the ceiling, its crystals dulled and swaying faintly, though there's no breeze to move them. The silence is thick, oppressive, broken only by the crunch of their boots on shattered glass and the occasional drip of water echoing from somewhere deep within. Jake swings his camera around, capturing every detail. The peeling wallpaper, the faint outlines of footprints in the dust, footprints that seem too fresh for a place this dead. "This is gold," he says, his voice too loud in the stillness. "Our best video yet." The group decides to split up to cover more ground. A decision that feels practical in the moment, but will haunt them later. Jake and Mia head upstairs to the patient wards, their footsteps echoing in the narrow stairwell, the air growing colder with every step. Ethan and Sarah take the basement, descending a rickety staircase that creaks under their weight, the darkness below swallowing the beam of Sarah's flashlight. Upstairs, the hallways stretch endlessly, a labyrinth of peeling paint and rusted gurneys tipped over like forgotten toys. The walls are streaked with stains, water, mold, or something worse, Mia can't tell. She stops at a door labeled Therapy Room 4, its paint chipped and flaking, the number barely legible. Inside, they find a metal chair bolted to the floor, its surface pitted with rust, restraints dangling from its arms like skeletal fingers. A single bulb hangs overhead, unlit, swaying slightly as if disturbed by their presence. "Dude, this is straight out of a horror movie," Mia whispers, her voice trembling now, not just from the cold. Jake pans his camera across the room, zooming in on a shelf of dusty medical files stacked haphazardly, some spilling onto the floor. He grabs one, flipping it open with a grin that's starting to falter. The pages are in Russian, Cyrillic script sprawling across yellowed paper, but there are photos. Grainy black and white shots of patients with hollow stares, their eyes sunken, their skin marked with strange patterns, like burns or scars etched in deliberate shapes. One photo shows a woman, her mouth open in a silent scream, her hands clawing at her own face. "What the hell were they doing here?" Jake mutters, his bravado slipping as he flips to another page. This one with a diagram of a human head, arrows pointing to the ears, scribbled notes in the margins he can't read. Meanwhile, in the basement, Ethan and Sarah stumble into a storage room, the air so damp it clings to their skin, heavy with the stench of mildew and something sharper, metallic. Sarah's flashlight sweeps across the space, catching glints of rust and decay. A pile of broken chairs, a cracked sink, and then something else. A stack of old reel-to-reel tape recorders, their metal casings dulled by time, and beside them, a box of audio cassettes, each one labeled with dates and numbers in faded ink. Ethan laughs, a nervous edge to it now. Jackpot. Vintage vibes for the channel. This is gonna look so cool on camera. He picks up a cassette marked 102385 and pops it into a dusty player, brushing off cobwebs as he presses play. Static crackles through the silence, sharp and grating. Then a voice cuts through. Low, distorted, speaking in broken English. Subject 17. Uncooperative. Voice captured. Must isolate. The tape cuts off abruptly, leaving a ringing in their ears. Sarah frowns, her breath quickening. That's creepy as hell. What does it mean, voice captured? Ethan shrugs, but his smirk is gone, replaced by a tightness around his eyes. Probably just some old psych ward nonsense. Let's try it again. Back upstairs, Jake and Mia hear a faint sound, like a murmur drifting through the walls, soft at first, like the hum of a distant crowd. Mia freezes, her hand gripping Jake's arm. "Did you hear that?" Jake smirks, aiming his camera down the hall, its lens catching only shadows and dust motes. Probably just Ethan screwing with us. You know how he is. But then it comes again, clearer this time. A whisper. Too soft to make out words, but unmistakably human. A chorus of voices overlapping, rising and falling like a tide. The temperature drops sharply, their breath fogging in the dim light, curling in front of their faces like ghosts. Mia pulls her jacket tighter, her eyes darting to the corners of the room, where the shadows seem to pulse, just for a second. "That's not Ethan," she says, her voice barely audible. Jake opens his mouth to argue, but the whisper comes again, closer now, brushing against their ears like a cold finger. Downstairs, Ethan rewinds the tape, his fingers fumbling with the controls, playing it again despite Sarah's quiet protest. This time, the voice shifts mid-sentence, the distortion warping into something personal. Subject 17. Uncooperative. "Ethan, stop playing the tape." Ethan yanks the cassette out, his face pale, his hands shaking as he drops it to the floor. "What the fuck? Did it just say my name?" Sarah grabs his arm, her nails digging in. "That's impossible. It's from 1985. There's no way." They hear footsteps above, Jake and Mia pacing the halls. But something else too. A slow, deliberate tapping, like fingernails on metal, echoing from deeper in the basement. A rhythm that doesn't match the footsteps overhead. Sarah swings her flashlight toward the sound, but the beam catches only dust and empty space. The tapping fading into silence, as if it knows they're listening. The group reunites in the lobby, breathless, their faces flushed with a mix of fear and adrenaline. Mia's hands tremble as she holds up her phone, her voice cracking. "Guys, I recorded the whispers. Listen." She plays it back, the speaker crackling faintly. Faint voices, overlapping, chanting something unintelligible, a language that feels ancient and wrong, twisting in their ears. Jake's bravado falters, his laugh hollow now. "Okay, that's weird, really weird. But let's keep going. The subscribers will eat this up. This is the kind of raw footage that blows up." Ethan nods, but his eyes keep darting to the shadows, and Sarah clutches her flashlight like a lifeline, her knuckles white. They set up in a larger room, an old auditorium with rows of decayed chairs facing a stage, the wood splintered, the fabric torn and mildewed. The air here is heavier, stale, like it hasn't moved in decades. Ethan plugs the tape player into a portable speaker, determined to debunk the strangeness, to prove it's all in their heads. He plays another cassette, labeled 10-2085. His fingers hesitant on the buttons. A woman's voice this time, calm but eerie, like she's speaking through a dream. The voices are in the walls now. They know we're here. They want out. The words hang in the air, chilling. And then halfway through, the tape warps, the sound stretching and bending, and Mia's voice cuts in, sharp and clear. "Guys, I recorded the whispers." It's the exact line she said minutes ago, her own words echoing back at her, from a cassette decades old. Mia drops her phone, the clatter loud in the silence, and backs away, her eyes wide. "That's me. How is that me? How is my voice on that tape?" Sarah notices something worse, her breath catching in her throat. The auditorium's shadows seem off, unnatural. Corners stretch too long, bending in ways they shouldn't, and the air feels thick, like it's pressing against their skin, weighing them down. Jake swings his camera around, his movements jerky, catching a flicker. A figure in the back row, tall and still, its outline blurred, gone when he looks again. "Did anyone else see that?" he asks, his voice cracking, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold. Ethan, stubborn, grabs another tape, 10-25-85, and jams it into the player, ignoring Sarah's plea to stop. This one starts with static, a wall of noise that grates on their nerves. Then a man screaming, raw and desperate. "They're in my head. They're using my voice. Stop it." The tape glitches, the sound warping into a hiss, and suddenly Jake's voice blares through the speaker, loud and distorted. Did anyone else see that? The group stares at each other, horrified, their reflections in each other's eyes wide and wild. The tapes are recording them, predicting them, stealing their words before they even speak them. Panic sets in, a tidal wave crashing over them. Sarah bolts for the exit, her boots pounding the floor, but the front doors won't budge, rusted shut despite being open earlier, the metal cold and unyielding under her fists. Jake joins her, throwing his shoulder against the frame, but it's like pushing a mountain. Mia tries the windows, smashing a chair against the glass, the impact jarring her arms. The panes shatter, shards raining down, but then, impossibly, the glass reforms instantly, knitting itself back together like living tissue, sealing them in. The whispers grow louder, seeping from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. A chorus of voices, some pleading, some mocking, some screaming, all blending into a cacophony that claws at their minds. Jake's camera battery dies, the screen going black, but then it flickers back on, unprompted, showing footage he didn't record. The four of them standing in the auditorium, staring blankly at the stage, their mouths moving in unison, their eyes empty. "That's us. Right now," he chokes out, his voice barely a whisper, his hands shaking as he drops the camera. Mia clutches her head, her nails digging into her scalp. I can hear them inside me. They're saying my name, over and over, like they're calling me home. Ethan, desperate for answers, finds a final tape, unmarked, wedged under the stage, its edges worn smooth as if handled countless times. Against Sarah's protests, her voice rising into a frantic sob, he plays it, the machine whirring to life. It's all their voices, layered together, a twisted harmony. Jake, Mia, Ethan, Sarah, you shouldn't have come. You're ours now. The lights flicker, strobing wildly, and the auditorium plunges into darkness, the silence so complete it feels like a weight on their chests. When the lights come back on, faint and flickering, the chairs are filled. Dozens of figures, faceless, silent, watching them with hollow gazes, their forms shimmering like heat haze. Mia screams, a raw sound that tears from her throat, and Jake grabs her arm, pulling her back as the figures rise, their movements slow and deliberate, like puppets on invisible strings. The group tries to flee, adrenaline surging, but the sanatorium twists around them, a living maze. Hallways loop endlessly, stretching into infinity, the walls pulsing faintly as if breathing. Doors lead to nowhere, opening onto blank brick or the same room they just left, the air growing hotter, then colder, then hotter again, disorienting them. The whispers become screams, a deafening roar that drowns out their own cries. Mia collapses, clawing at her ears as her own voice echoes from every direction, repeating her name in a mockery of her fear. Ethan swings a chair at a figure, his muscles straining, but it dissipates into smoke, a cloud of ash that stings his eyes, reforming behind him with a low, guttural chuckle. Sarah stumbles into a hidden room, a control booth tucked behind a false wall, its door unmarked. Inside, monitors line the walls, their screens glowing faintly, showing live feeds of them running, screaming, falling, though no cameras are visible anywhere. She watches herself on the screen, her own terrified face staring back, and then the image glitches, her reflection's mouth moving while she stands still, whispering her name. Jake, desperate, wild-eyed, smashes the tape player with a broken chair leg, the plastic shattering, the metal bending. The voices stop. For a moment, a fragile second of silence that feels like salvation. Then they hear it. A low, guttural laugh. Not from the tapes, but from the walls themselves reverberating through the concrete, shaking the floor beneath their feet. The figures close in, their blank faces shifting, rippling, becoming familiar. Jake's sharp jawline, Mia's wide eyes, Ethan's smirk, Sarah's trembling lips. Sarah screams as she recognizes them. They're us! They're us! The realization hits like a punch, stealing her breath, her legs buckling beneath her. The last thing they record, found weeks later on a camera tossed into the woods, its lens cracked, its battery impossibly still alive, is Jake's voice, distorted and hollow, barely human. If you find this, don't come looking. Pine Hollow isn't empty. It's waiting. It's always waiting. And that's where the footage ends. The four friends vanish that day, swallowed by the sanatorium, leaving behind only their camera and a box of tapes no one dares to play. Tapes that sit in evidence lockers, untouched, their labels faded, but still legible. Locals say the sanatorium still stands, hidden in the woods, its silhouette looming against the trees on moonless nights, whispering to anyone who gets too close. Names, please. Promises. Some claim they've heard their own voices calling back from the shadows, faint but unmistakable. Others say the forest itself has changed, the paths shifting, the trees leaning inward as if guarding something. So, what do you think, viewers? Would you dare step inside Pine Hollow? Would you listen to the tapes, press play, and risk hearing your own voice on the other side? Leave your thoughts below. Share your own creepy stories. And don't forget to subscribe for more tales that crawl under your skin and stay there. Until next time, stay curious, but stay safe, because some places don't let you leave. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, all the way to the end. If you enjoyed these stories, leave a like, subscribe, and share this with someone who still thinks horror is just fiction. The scariest things happen when you think it's all over. I'll see you very soon. And don't forget, check under the bed before you sleep.